Free to go and do what and for what reason. Given no resources, just told to leave. But even with that, the ingenuity and the love that black people have for themselves, just a few short years later, we begin to build institutions. It's time for some new institution builders. You look at the founding of most of your historically black colleges and universities from 1863, you see the emergence of organizations a few years after that. Morehouse College, Spelman College, Morris Brown, Wilberforce. They all take their origin just a few years afterwards because we understood if you give us access to education and proper training, that we can go out and build a new world. So Black Wall Street emerges from that. Now, Black Wall Street did not disappear because of gentrification. Black Wall Street began to disappear because the other dominant culture began to be jealous. When you begin to make strides, when you begin to do self-determination, Kuji Chaga live, when you begin to assert that you have a right in order to live and breathe and walk in a free and a warmer sun, there's always going to be those who come to oppose you. That's why we sing the song, Stormy the Road We Trod. Bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. As we sung it, I was still sitting there these generations later with tears running down my eyes, realizing we've come a long ways. We made tremendous progress. But you cannot get tired in don't get weary in well-doing. Even in spite of the Emancipation Proclamation being signed, the folks down in Texas said, oh, we didn't get the message. Another lie of history. They got the message. They knew exactly what that meant. Juneteenth came about because they were recalcitrant. Who would want to give up free labor? I had some people come clean my house up for the holidays. When they got through, they said, here's the invoice. I wish that I could tell them Merry Christmas, but I needed y'all to do that for me for free. A fight would have broke out in my living room when I told them, who don't want free labor? So they pretended as if they didn't get the message, and we went right along with the lie. We celebrate Juneteenth, but we had to tell the truth about it. They got the message there, but Texas, the Lone Star State, the only state in the union that don't fly a regular flag, they said we are singularly different. We are a former territory of Mexico, but we don't want no Mexicans here. Don't bring nobody across the border. Although this is their original land, we don't want them across the border. And you must do something, so we'll ship them to Kamala Harris' house over the Christmas holiday. These are the same people who understood that we were free, but refused to give up until General Gordon Granger showed up. 2 days later, 2 years later, he stayed there for 2 days. He said, now look, I'm begging y'all to let these enslaved Africans go. Now you need to let them go. Not only did he say that, but the point of Juneteenth was that he said you also must allow them access to everything that white folks have access to. They said, oh, no, we'll let them go now. Because we done perfected the system called Jim Crow after that. We have convict leasing. We have another program to put them in now. And so then he said, well, again, you got 2 days. And then about 1,800 troops showed up 2 days later by boat. When the troops got off, they said, okay, well, look, they didn't come on them with a greeting and salutation. They came with guns. And said, now, either you're going to let them go, because we heard one of your former leaders say, give them liberty or give them what? Yeah. We're here to give you exactly that if you don't let these folk go. And that's how that went. It wasn't that they all of a sudden decided you need to have these rights. And so ours have been a struggle for the longest. Church formed, institutions formed. 1909, NAACP has to be formed. Why would we need an NAACP if we had equality and equal rights? It was necessary because those who have possessed and had power over you never will give up that power, even in 2023. And so we have to learn how to be resilient on this Jubilee Day. We have to learn a charge to keep we have. We have to learn that if we don't have a spiritual basis to do this work, we will get lost. If we don't believe that if God be for you, who can be against you and win? If that's those spiritual imperative that keeps us fighting, then we'll just sit back. And I'm here to let you know that you cannot remain silent, as Dr. King said, on things that matters. Your silence grant consent to those who want to do whatever they want to do. And I am convinced more than ever before that we are being way too silent on things that matter in our society and in our world. And I'm here to also tell you that God cannot use no coward soldier. If you're scared, stay at home. Because there is still a radical remnant of us who don't care what the price is. I believe in all my soul and being before I be a slave. Now, I'm just speaking for me. I can't speak for nobody else in here. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to the Lord and be free. I think I finally just got off bond from my last charge. But I'm so looking forward to going again. I understand politics, and politics has its place. And I also believe, Pastor, that we have to pray for those who are in authority over us. Because, you know, all of these struggles, we would often say, if you just give us the ballot, we will elect men and women of substance and those who understand our historical struggle. We'll make sure that we understand those who knew what the Emancipation Proclamation was all about and what Jubilee Day is all about. We did not elect you to go in the back and cut deals against the best interests of our people. We didn't elect you to go and do us worse than the other folks did. We did not elect you to go in and scratch where nothing itching, dance when there's no tune been played. We elect you to be bold and courageous and fearless and righteous and prayerful and thoughtful. And we also elected you to come check in with your people. Right after I left City Council, they passed a bill. I ain't going to go up. I'm going to stay under my 2 or 3 minutes. I ain't got but 2 or 3 more minutes. I may not even get to you, Reverend Matthew, because the Spirit done took me all somewhere else. City Council passed a bill that said even they didn't even want to hear from you for your 2 minutes. You know, you get 2 minutes to talk on any subject now. This is Atlanta City Council. I don't know if any of them in here, but if they are, I ain't scared. I'm 6'3" and 175 pounds. I ain't scared of nothing in here. Don't y'all be laughing at my 175 pounds. That's what's on my vision board. Don't get mad at me. And you put 175 pounds on your vision board too. We claiming it. Speak it into existence. Speak those things which are not as if they are. We won't even take your 2 minutes. I said, hold on now. These are some of the same people who just came through election. I'm trying to worship at church. Here you go jumping in the pulpit at my church. Because folk like Pastor Matthew don't want to be discourteous. He'd be nice to him, Bishop, and he let him, okay, come on. We never seen you before. You jump up there giving honor to God who's the head of my life. And then I said, let me go watch and see what he passed and see if God really is heading this up. I had to let him know now. When you remember when you came to church and you said God was the head of it? Well, God said that if you're poor, then I'm supposed to do something for you. When you were naked, I gave you clothes. I didn't criminalize the homeless. I did not criminalize the church. I had a church call me and say, look, we packed our food up because we were told we need a permit to feed the hungry. I had to run them back to what Reverend Matthew said. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. And he told me to sit at liberty the captives. And if a man is captive to hunger, then I have a moral obligation and responsibility to feed him. I didn't want to cuss the church people out. But I told them, if you all are scared, tell me where you are. I'll meet you in my car and take the food down to the homeless. Because there's a book that's greater than the code of ordinance that I got to be guided by. So every now and then you have to be willing to go against contemporary thought and contemporary laws. Because I'd rather be out of favor with man and be favored by God than be out of favor with God and favored by men. So I told him, y'all don't get y'all chicken livered self back down there and feed them hungry people. Because that's what God will have you to do. And if you're scared, say you're scared, and I'll come down there and feed them. Set at liberty the captives. Some of y'all got nervous when they said we're going to do no cash bond. We got homeless people been sitting in jail for 4 or 5 months because they don't have $100. We got mentally ill people who this government and this state will not even open up mental health centers. And we have a pandemic of mental illness and they won't open up centers. They'll put them in the county jail. But guess what? The homeless person don't care nothing about going to the county jail. He get 3 hots in a cot. I want to go to jail. But it's our responsibility to get them mental health services. We got to advocate for that too. I tell them the great tragedy of this country is we have Vietnam and other veterans living under bridges. They lost their minds so that you could keep yours. They lost their minds in Saigon and Desert Storm and all these other places so that you could keep yours. Now they come home and they living on a bridge. I was a conscientious objector. All 3 of my brothers served. I was a conscientious objector. I refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in the 8th grade. True. Because certain parts of it, I said, how did that apply to my people? That's some great words written. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among them a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There's no greater words been ever written in the language of this land. The problem with that is when it was written, you were being held as chattel slaves. So they understood that it wasn't self-evident to them that you were even a human being. In fact, you were 3/5 of a human being. That you had no rights that a white man had to respect. And we thought we overturned that by law and by legal standing with Plessy versus Ferguson and other laws. But then if I have no right that you have to respect, well, why is Sandra Bland dead? Why is Philando Castile dead? We can call the road. Why are all of these people dead on the side of the road? If you had inalienable rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We got a charge to keep, my dear friends. And on this Jubilee Day, let us not get weary in well-doing. Let us understand that we're all we got, but we're all we need. When we unite, the power of our unity is something special. The power of our unity produces change. I understand, you know, I don't beat up on elected officials. I call them and I talk to them and I try to tell them now, you know, I used to always like when people come down to the meeting when I was on city council, Madam Mayor, tell them you don't vote for this. And Sheriff Franklin, another one like that, she was, you know, little piece of leather, but well put together. We didn't always agree there. And I would tell people she's a very worthy adversary because she did what was unpopular. Nobody wanted to do it. You know, I'm going to get to the point and then I ain't going to even ask you, Rev, I'm done. Because the bishop said, oh, this is already done, went too long. I heard you, Bishop. And the presiding prelate of the 6th Episcopal District is my friend. And a friend of my friend, Martin Odom, told me before he even got here, he said, boy, y'all getting a firestorm. I said, Lord, we need a righteous fire. Not the one that Sherman brought, but we do need a righteous fire. And he was not playing. He did not play around. Play the radio, but don't play with him. What about the women? Let me say this. You know, historically, we've never had a problem with women as leaders. We never had a problem. Brother, actually, where you get this that you're wearing? I bought this in South Africa. Every year I go to Africa. I'll be going to Ghana this year in May. I go for my birthday every year and take a delegation of people. But when you go up into Egypt, you study one of the most successful pharaohs with Hatshepsut, who was a woman. She's a woman, but a warrior, a lady, but a lion. And we never had an issue with women. Shirley Franklin broke the mold to become the first black woman elected mayor in a major city in the South. She don't get the credit she should get. If she was a man and had done what she done, we would have statues all around this city for that woman. All right? And I'm saying that as one who didn't always agree with her. But it's true. All of these high rises you see being built, all of these condos, all of these buildings that's being built, with the infrastructure we had in the early 2000s, the sewer capacity would have not allowed that. All right? So we have a city council president. Is he here? Okay, I'm going to call him. It's been the holidays. There are African-American women who have held the position of leadership. Representation matters now. What our children see, I want these young girls to look at that mayor and Mayor Ingram Holiday and all of these women on city council and say, I can do that. The reason I can do it because Mayor Holiday did it. Mayor Franklin did it. All of these, Karen Renee is doing it. I can do that. Representation matter when little black girls. I just saw an interview, I don't know if you saw it, of the little boy. You remember when President Obama first got elected and he bent over to let this kid rub his hair because the child was looking at him, and he looked at the office and everything. He said, wow, are you real? And President Obama, being the great father, humanitarian, and understanding the power of the moment, bent over and said, feel my hair and then feel yours. They're the same. If some young girl is going to be inspired that she can lead, then she needs to see sisters leading. And we have to say, even to that president who was the chairman of, this is that great irony now, you the great chairman of the Civil Rights Museum downtown, to commemorate the victories and the power of us being equally established and yoked, and that women have a place in history. Some of the greatest women, while I love Dr. King, I love Ella Baker. While I love Hosea Williams, I equally love Fannie Lou Hamer, who said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And history has not been kind to women because we live in both a patriarchal as well as a, y'all know the word I'm trying to use, just a misogynistic world. I ain't got no problem saying that. There's some churches, even in this city, that women are not allowed to go preach at. Because we have a historical misinterpretation. Now, I'm not a theologian, so I don't know how to be hermeneutically sound and homiletically correct, but I know how to read the Bible. And I knew my grandmama had the gift of prophecy and deliverance because people always stand outside her door. And that was a preacher who lived in the same neighborhood. They passed him by and came to her. So, sisters, some of us now, I'm going on record as saying, I think that's a problem. All right? And I'm done now. Because anytime we get in a society where we believe that sisters cannot lead and your mama is black, and so is your sister, and on everything that I love, you wouldn't dare mess with them, your wife, so is your wife and your daughters, then we need to speak up. And if we don't speak up, then the Bible said the rocks will do what? Cry out for me. Ain't no rock going to ever have to cry for me. As long as I get this mouth stretched open and got some words to say, I'm going to say them, and I'm going to say them real soon in the right places. So God bless you and God keep you. Let me just remind you now, I understand. Let me be very clear, because I had a very good friend who said, Derrick, I will follow you anywhere. I believe in you, but one place I'm not going with you is to jail. But she said, I will have you some bail money ready. So some of you all who are in here suited and booted, I do not expect you to get on no microphone, talk like this. I do not expect you to carry no sign. Your hand was not made for no sign. But when the NAACP stand up and when they ask for donations in a few minutes, write a big check, because you know you're too scared to get out here and do what Deborah Scott and what Brother Griggs do and what some of us do. Just help fund us then, okay? We'll be all right there. Is that all right? I'm going to exempt you from ever having to pick up a sign if you would just fund some of us that are will and then pray for us, right? If you can just do those two things, fund us and pray for us, all right? We'll be all right. I ain't talking about the $5 kind either now. I don't know. $5 will not help anybody on any bail money. Put a 2 zeros behind it and that'll help us, all right? God bless and God keep you. Thank you.
Y'all, I told y'all he was one of the reasons why I got involved. And you can see that clear as day. So we thank Brother Derrick Boazman for all the things that he continues to do. It's just an honor to, just fight alongside with him and to learn from him as we always continue to learn on this journey. There are a few other people that I want to thank. I want to thank the caterers in the back that have done a phenomenal job on the food. I also want to thank the brothers from Omega Psi Phi for standing with us and providing support. We in the Divine Nine joke a lot with one another, but we could not do this work without being one. So I want to, again, thank the brothers of Omega Psi Phi for the work that they're doing in the back. I also want to thank the young people. You guys have done a phenomenal job. I know y'all sitting here listening to old people talk. But hopefully it's sinking in that we are doing all of these things for you and that you truly are not just the future, you're the right now. So we really appreciate you guys being, matter of fact, all the young people, please stand. I want to give y'all a round of applause. Thank you, thank you. And so we're going to shift to the next portion of our program. We have some really, really distinguished people who have been doing some phenomenal work in the community. And one of the first people that I want to honor, I met her a long time ago, and she's a very young person, so that just shows how long she's been doing this work. Amari Fennoy is awesome. From when I first met her, I believe she was a junior at Spelman. The work she was doing with the Spelman NAACP was awesome even at that point. But she continued to matriculate and become even more phenomenal in the work that she has been doing. She is an activist, bar none. She is a leader. And so I just want to read a little bit of her biography. Amari Fennoy is an alum of Spelman College, graduating with a Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science and the University of Missouri St. Louis with a Master's in Education and Special Education. She has an 8-year history with the NAACP. She served as a state coordinator for the Georgia State Conference of the NAACP, president of the Georgia Youth in College, vice president of the Georgia Youth in College, vice president Georgia Youth, Spelman Chapter NAACP Political Action Chair, and 2-term president. Under Amari's leadership, Spelman Chapter earned the National Membership Laydown Award in 2018 and 2019. They earned the Chairman's Trophy for the highest membership increase from 2018 to 2019. And in 2019, she earned the Lucille Black Award for highest total membership production. Amari was recognized for her efforts with honor for the 2019 Region 5 Youth and College Organizer of the Year. And she's also the 2019 Reverend Dr. Amos Brown Activist Award winner. Her work, her demanding work and dedication led to her to represent the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in the 2019 Women's March in Washington, D.C. Amari has worked tirelessly as a social justice advocate, mentor, and powerful voice within the Georgia State Conference. She brings a quality of leadership that embodies strength and compassion to the NAACP organization and the communities around her. She has a heart for her work, and her passion goes far beyond catering to the state of Georgia. Amari is the quintessential leader. When I talk about the fact that I am supremely proud of the next generation, Amari embodies all of that. So it's with great honor that I present to her, if she could come up, this small token of our appreciation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I must start off by saying I am extremely honored to receive this award from the organization and from the branch that started me off in my advocacy. I remember the first time I was in the Atlanta office, I brought 17 Spelman women to President Rose and to President Griggs to talk about policy, to talk about reproductive justice, to ensure that Black women had a voice, ensuring that we had a presence and we had a seat at the table. And I think forever we have an understanding that Black women, especially Spelman women, will always have a seat at the table. And if we don't, we'll make sure that we have one. But I'm really appreciative to have you all in my corner. I do want us to remember that democracy wins when all eligible voters are able to exercise their fundamental right to vote in a free and fair election. In the words of our Vice President of Campaigns, Dominic Whitehead, democracy is at stake, and we understood that this election. Over 100 branches and over 80 members of the Youth in College, we toured different cities. We had 35 trainings. We visited 25 colleges in rural cities that were overlooked often over and over and over every election. We sent 2 million text messages, sent hundreds and thousands of phone calls, knocked on hundreds of doors, provided lift codes, provided grants for units to mobilize their community members. The NAACP continued to monitor with our incident reports, with our attorneys on the ground, with legislation. We were in the courtrooms. Not only were we on the ground, but we were in the courtrooms just like we will be in the legislative session in the upcoming weeks. My favorite quote is from my soror, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. We took our folding chair to every city within Georgia to make sure that they understood their power and their vote. And we did that with Black women from Black Voters Matter, from Georgia NAACP, from Georgia Stand Up. We all mobilized and ensured that our people got out to vote. And we understood that our youth were the influencers, and those are the shakers. That's who we go to ensure that what we need to have done is done. We went to every single HBCU in Georgia and registered and mobilized to have them in sprinters going to vote. We made sure that they had every resource, even the AUC, who was disenfranchised by SB 202 because they didn't have voter IDs or they didn't have Georgia IDs. We understood the needs and we met the people where they were. And we made sure that they understood that they had their power. The legislative session is coming up. 2024 is coming up, and we have to keep the momentum. And I want to make sure that we understand that we still have something to say. The South has something to say, especially Georgia. All roads lead to Georgia. And I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention the women who are on the forefront with us. Ms. Deborah Scott, Olivia Duncan, Latasha Brown, Helen Butler, Fanika Miller, Melanie Calhoun, Miss Karen Renee, Delinda Gaskins, and many, many more, Portia Miller. But we also thank those men who stood behind us, like President Griggs, President Rose, Antonio Lewis, several different individuals who are always supportive and behind us, and we always thank you, and we appreciate your support. But thank you all.
y'all when I say she's a phenomenal woman, phenomenal leader. And I want to go on record on something, because just like Derrick, I didn't get a chance to fully go on record, and people have reminded me. I've received the phone calls. I'm gravely concerned about what's happening in the city of Atlanta. As a black man, raised by a black woman, loved by black women, raising a black woman, I want to make sure that not only black women have a seat at the table, but they're at the head of the table. So, Doug, give me a call. Now, there is a young man who I have had the honor of working with in courtrooms around Georgia, who I've seen matriculate through the House of Power, serving Georgia in so many capacities. You know, William Boddie is a friend of mine. You know, I appreciate him being present not only on the front lines, but in the houses of power, in the courtroom. And the work that he has done for Georgia deserves to be honored. So I want to read a little bit of his bio. Here it is. State Representative Will Boddie is a native Atlantan, currently resides in East Point. He's a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated and a lifelong, I told y'all we love each other, a lifelong member of Antioch Baptist Church. Representative Boddie is a graduate of Mercer University, the Walter F. George School of Law in Macon, Georgia, and has been practicing law since November the 7th, 2005. Representative Boddie was first elected to the Georgia House of Representatives on November of 2016 and was sworn in January the 9th, 2017. After just one term of office, his House of Representative Democratic Caucus colleagues elected Representative Boddie to serve as the minority whip for November of 2018, the second-ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives. Before being elected to the GHDC leadership, Representative Boddie was appointed to serve as the communications chair for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus in July of 2017. Representative Boddie served on the Budget and Fiscal Oversight Committee and the Judicial Non-Civil, the Small Business Development, and the Special Committee on Access to Civil Justice System Committees. Representative Boddie has passed over 27 bills in 6 years as a Democrat in the Georgia House of Representatives. Among those bills, Representative Boddie co-authored and was lead co-sponsor of House Bill 479, which is Georgia's citizens arrest repeal legislation. House Bill 479 was created and passed into law in direct response to the Ahmaud Arbery murder of February the 23rd, 2020 in Glenn County. Representative Boddie, among others, were a part of a delegation that got on a bus and rode down to Brunswick to make sure folks understood that activism flows into policy making. And so for his extraordinary work as a citizen of Georgia, it is my distinct honor to honor Representative Boddie with a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much, President Griggs. It's an honor to be here. First, I have to thank God for the opportunity to even serve my community and to serve my state. But also I have to honor my mother who is here today, Gloria Boddie, and also my brother, Kevin Boddie. And we all know Miss Deborah Boddie, her phenomenal hair. My wife sitting there. I want you to stand up, Deborah. She's been all over Georgia with me. But I want to say that I stand on the shoulders of giants, not only the esteemed Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who's also a native son of Atlanta like myself, but also on my uncle, Baba Avendala, but also on dear friends like Derrick Boazman, who brought me into Let Us Make Man as a young attorney back in 2009. And I remember when I said, Derrick, I'm about to run for public office back in 2015. Let Us Make Man, we have meetings every Thursday night at Derrick's home, 9 to 10, that's what it says, that's what it tells us, but sometimes it goes about 11 o'clock. But we had a long meeting, and I remember saying to Derrick, I'm gonna run for State House. And it was already about 11 o'clock at night. We sat and talked with Brother Keenan Walker till about 3 in the morning on what it takes to be an elected official that's conscious about your community and about your people. And so that's what I took into the State House. And when we talk about courage in politics, I want to give you 2 quick stories. One was with the citizens arrest repeal legislation. My caucus filed that legislation originally back in June of 2020. But when we filed that legislation, we had another piece of legislation that my dear friend, the Bishop, Reginald Jackson, made sure was first priority, and it was the hate crimes bill. And I never forget, we was all going through COVID at the time, and we had reconvened session for about 11 days in June. It was hot. We were all ready to go. We were scared because nobody knew what COVID still was. And I remember Bishop Jackson said to me and to my caucus and to the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus, y'all cannot leave this State House until we get a hate crime bill in Georgia. And I remember 48 hours before Sonny died and we gaveled out. We worked every day of those 2 days, every hour, every minute, until we passed a hate crimes bill in June of 2020. And I'm very honored to be able to work on that legislation. But then we had another piece of legislation after Amari was murdered back in February of 2020. And I remember the majority party telling me, we can't do 2 of these type bills. And I was like, what are these type bills? What do you mean? Well, we can't do 2 of those bills in this one session. You may have to wait. Well, I was like, well, we're waiting. But we're coming back, and we're going to get citizens arrest repealed in the state of Georgia after Amari was murdered for no reason but his skin color when he was running through a neighborhood in Glenn County trying to clear his mind. And so when we came back, I was told that it still wasn't going to get done that June. So I was like, we'll wait. And then we had the summer of social change when young people like you all marched through the streets of Atlanta and Glenn County, and also George Floyd, also Sandra Bland, also Breonna Taylor, so many others were being honored for the loss of life, which was recklessly taken from them. And so I recall, Derrick, I was sitting right before session was about to start in January 2021. And my dear friend, my successor, Tanya Miller's probably going to be getting those calls coming up this weekend. And the governor's floor leader called me. And it said that the governor wants to do something about citizens arrest repeal legislation. That's after they said we couldn't do this type of bill. And now Georgia is still one of the only states in this country repeal its citizens arrest statute, which no citizen can come and arrest another citizen of this state. But also, my mayor challenged me, Mayor Holiday Ingram challenged me as a state legislator. And I say that with all the confidence and all the respect. She said, Representative Boddie, why can East Point not have the most legislation? And I was like, man, well, you know, City of Atlanta was able to get it, but, you know, that was a special circumstance. And Derrick was they're working on that legislation as well. The most legislation is the municipal ops and sales tax. And what we had in East Point at the time, we had water mains that was 40, 50 years old, infrastructure that was crumbling. And I said, man, I don't know if we could get this done. And she said, well, I want you to try. And so I got with Representative Schofield, who's my dear friend, Kim Schofield, and Senator Sonia Hopper, and Senator Nan Alrock, and also Representative David Dreyer. And we all came together and was like, we're going to file this legislation. Because this legislation has the potential to bring $40 million to the city of East Point, the city of Hateville, and to the city of College Park to upgrade our aging infrastructure. And when it got in the tooth and nail of it, and when the Senate Majority Leader told me at the time, William Boddie, that bill is not going to pass, someone from GMA gave me a story about then Mayor of Atlanta, Shirley Franklin, going to a then newly elected Republican governor and saying Atlanta needed the most sales tax passed because of the infrastructure issues that Atlanta was having. And this mayor, newly mayor, in 2004 was able to get the Georgia General Assembly and a Republican majority to pass a piece of legislation that benefited the city of Atlanta. And when I started to say this can't get done, it won't get done, I thought about you, Mayor. And I said, if a new mayor, the first African-American woman, could go to then Governor Sonny Perdue, who was just elected the first governor in the state of Georgia to be a Republican in over 100 years, surely, William Boddie, you need to work a little harder. And when they said it still ain't going to get through on the night of Sonny died because you got all Democrats on it, I said, no, we got to get it done. And we got it done. I'm very happy that the citizens of College Park, East Point, and Hateville passed that legislation on the ballots back last year. But I want to end by saying this. When you go into politics, you have to go into it as a selfless servant leader. The people put you into halls of power to do the people's work. You're not being placed there for a title, a name badge, or some honor that you think you're above. You're put there, as my dear friend C.T. Martin told me, to protect and serve the people of your community. And I've been honored to serve the people of South Fulton and Douglas County, where I was born and raised, to be able to do more to help us to move our agenda forward by passing legislation that's going to help the community and not hurt the community. Thank you all for having me. Georgia NAACP, thank you for the honor. And thank you, Gerald, for all that you do. And we need you, brother, at the State House in session coming up.
Thank you again, Representative Boddie, for all the wonderful work that you have done and will continue to do for Georgia. The last, but certainly most important award goes to a man who I've seen on the front lines fighting for justice, who actually called for boycotts against major corporations in Georgia when voting rights were under attack. And when I say that, you know, he's been on the front lines with us, most of the time he beat us to the front line. And so that is awesome. But I want to read a little bit of the biography of Bishop Reginald Jackson. And I'm just so proud to have worked with him and continue to work with him. And it goes like this. The Episcopal District of the African American Methodist Episcopal Church, which encompasses more than 500 churches in the state of Georgia. Bishop Jackson was selected and consecrated the 132nd bishop of the AME Church on in July of 2012 at the 49th quadrennial session of the General Conference held in Nashville, Tennessee. He was appointed at the bishop of the 12th Episcopal District and as the ecumenical and urban affairs officers of the AME Church. He was also the chair of the Social Action Commission. A native of Dover, Delaware, he graduated from Dover Public Schools. In 1976, he graduated from Delaware State University with a bachelor's degree in history. In 1972, he was licensed to preach at Mount Zion AME Church in Dover, Delaware, under the pastorate of Reverend Rudolph Coleman. He was ordained as an itinerant deacon in 1975 by Bishop Ernest Lawrence Hickman, and an iterate elder in 1977 by Bishop Richard Allen Hildebrandt. He graduated from Turner Seminary at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia in 1979. Bishop Jackson has served as the president of the Black Ministers Council of New Jersey, BMC, representing more than 600 churches in New Jersey. He was outspoken on every major issue in New Jersey, pressing the New Jersey State Supreme Court to order New Jersey to increase spending on poor school districts in the state, adequate funding for charity care, legislation to end predatory lending, and ending the death penalty in New Jersey, needle exchange, and legislation to make racial profiling a crime, the only state in the nation to pass such a law. Bishop Jackson had received 4 pens from 3 governors used to sign state legislation he was influential in helping to get passed. He received hundreds of awards for his service, including an honorary doctor at Payne Theological Seminary, ITC Seminary, Wilberforce University. He is a life member of the NAACP, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and a board member of the Conference of National Black Churches. In 2016, he earned the Bishop of the 6th Episcopal District at the 50th Quadrennial Session of the General Conference. During his tenure, he has paid off the district's debt, chairs the board of Morris Brown College, the board of Turner Theological Seminary, set district policies of the church, church growth, Christian education, and handling money God's way, and social justice. He challenged the state legislature and the governor to pass hate crimes legislation that was eventually signed by the governor in 2020. Has been an outspoken, vocal advocate for voting rights and a host of other social issues. Bishop Jackson is married to Christy Davis Jackson, an attorney, and he's the father of 2 children. I present to you the Bishop Reginald Jackson, and we are thankful for all of the work that he continues to do in the state of Georgia.
Thank you so very much. Let me thank the Atlanta NAACP for this award, which I am very much humbled and appreciative to receive. And yet, whenever I receive one of these awards, it makes me realize how really important it is for us to work together. Because as much as I receive this reward is really not about me, it's about us. I have been blessed to work with some of the finest ministers anywhere in the world here in the state of Georgia. I have been honored to work with leaders of organizations who I refer to as our partners in the movement, some of them here today. Nobody does anything by themselves. And so I accept this award not for me, but for us. And I'm thankful to God for allowing us to partner and work together. Every now and then someone will ask me what motivates me. When I was ordained in Delaware, there was an elderly woman whose name I don't know. Didn't know who she was. But after I was ordained, she came to me with tears running down her cheek. And she only said 2 words, but I remember those 2 words ever since. She simply shook my hand and said, "Be faithful." So I've spent my life just trying to be faithful. 1976, I came to Atlanta to go to seminary. And I tell you the truth, I got off to a rocky start. My parents gave me a car, and they drove down in another car. Got to Atlanta, I was so happy. The next morning, I went by the hotel to say goodbye to them before they left. I was stunned. The clerk at the hotel said, "They gone." And I said, "They didn't even wait to say goodbye. They were that anxious to get rid of me." So it was a rough start. But I wanted to come to Atlanta to seminary because of Atlanta's history, its leadership of the civil rights movement. And there is a quote from Dr. King which really has focused and shaped my life. Everybody talks about the dream, but Martin Luther King said something which just motivates me. And he said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where you stand at times of convenience and comfort, but at times of challenge and controversy. For in such times, expediency asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? Cowardice asks, is it safe? But conscience asks, is it right?" And so for all that we seek to do, for us the question is it right? Yes. Yes. And as much as some on the far right want to believe that we are all of this and all of that, the fact is there is much in America that's not right. And our commitment and our responsibility is to make it right. I especially want to thank all of the AMEs who have been so extremely supportive. I'm sitting next to a man today who one of the greatest blessings for me when I came to Georgia was to meet Gerald Derrick. He gets around faster than I do, has more energy than I have. He just will not tell me what he drinks. But he and others like him have meant so much to me. And finally, as I close, I am always mindful of something that Jesus said in the Lord's Prayer. Some words we remember almost everything about the Lord's Prayer except for these words. But these words, to me, are the ones that really guide and direct me. He said, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." I hope as we go forward, because 2023 going forward is going to be tough. Supreme Court's going to make some decisions, which I just envision are going to make it harder for us. Gut the Voting Rights Act, end affirmative action, make it harder to vote is going to be tough. Tomorrow, if they can ever decide who they want to be Speaker, we're going to face a House of Representatives whose agenda is not for us. Every morning you turn on the news, the first story is somebody got shot. Unfortunately, too many of them children and youth. It's going to be tough. But I hope we will not become weary in well-doing, but continue to do the work, hearing what Jesus said, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth. Thank you again.
Thank you again, Bishop Jackson, for all of the work that you are doing in Georgia and all the work that you've already done all around the country. As the bishop mentioned, there's going to be some rocky roads ahead. But we all know, like has been said by so many people, that when we fight, we win. And so that's what I want to make sure people continue to remember. The fight that has been left in us by our ancestors, we must tap into. Now, there are a few people that I must thank before we move into the benediction. First and foremost, I want the entire executive committee of the Atlanta NAACP to stand up. I want them to be given a great round of applause, because without them, we could do none of this work. There's also someone else I want to specifically thank. I want to thank Karen Renee for all of the work. Not only is she the second vice president, but she is the program director for the Atlanta NAACP. And y'all, none of this stuff that me and Richard and so many others do would be possible without Karen Renee. So I just want to thank her personally. I also want to thank all of you for coming and think it not robbery to spend time with the Atlanta branch of the NAACP. We really appreciate you. Now, as others have said, freedom is not free. The work and the programming that goes into the Atlanta NAACP has to be funded. We have to be secure so that we can speak truth to power. And some of them go to jail and then I get them out. And eventually I'm probably going to go too. But so please go to the website, www.naacpatlanta.org. Please donate. Make sure that you give. And if you are not a life member of the NAACP, we fully ask you to join and become a life member. You know, for just $750, you can raise a whole lifetime of hell. For $1,500, you can go to that next level, which is the, the Gerald and Richard level of causing trouble. And for $2,500, you can go to the Dr. King, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis level of troublemaking. So please join us. We have a lot of work to do in 2023. We see what's on the horizon, both in Washington and here in Georgia. And just always remember, anytime there is an extreme success or victory by people of color, but primarily black people, there's a backlash. We already know that a backlash is coming. Before they file the bills in the House or the Senate here in Georgia, before they launch the investigations up in Washington or file more bills, before the Supreme Court hands down a ruling on the independent state legislature doctrine, we all know it's coming. But what I want to leave you with is hope. Because just like 158 years ago, many of our ancestors sat in cabins or outside awaiting freedom, and then we kind of got free-ish, sort of. We have that same level of determination, that will of spirit, that focus and that resolve. But we also are going to do something a little different than our ancestors. We're going to teach them exactly how we do this, so that there's no mystic glow upon us that says, oh, we were special people that did special things. No, we weren't. Young people, this is what I want to leave with y'all. We are not special. We just saw a problem and decided to put one foot in front of the other. Most of the time, we didn't even know how to fix the problem until we confronted the problem. I can remember getting a phone call from several people from Brunswick, Georgia. I didn't know what we were getting into. We got on buses and went down there and walked down that street, and we saw that blood crying out from the concrete, and we got mobilized. That's all y'all got to do. And what y'all have is something that we never had, okay? Y'all have the power of unlimited knowledge in the palm of your hand. You can literally reach out to any of these people in the audience and the ones watching online and ask the question that you don't know the answer to. And know this, adults don't have all the answers. We do a good job of pretending that we have the answers, but we don't. But in 2020 and in 2021, we learned to tap into y'all's energy. I mean, y'all was outside for real. We're going to have to go back outside. We're going to have to get in some good and necessary trouble. And like many of the speakers said before, I know everybody can't come outside. Much I'd like for y'all to come outside. But if you can't come outside, help fund those who are going outside. Send emails and text messages and tweets and cards and postcards demanding change. Because change only occurs when the people convene. 2020, which I love to call Freedom Summer, happened because millions upon millions of people saw a young jogger running through Scintilla Shores, murdered on a video. It shocked the conscience of everybody. You know, I wasn't alive when Emmett was murdered, but I can only imagine what that felt like to see his body lay in that casket and that casket being open. But I did hear how Wanda Cooper Jones and Marcus Arbery felt when they found out their son was murdered for simply running down a street. We got to channel that. And we got to remember this fight is not over. Our opposition is very much planning right now. So we got to get on the battlefield. If we want to talk about the work of CT and John and Dr. King and John Dale and Ella, all of these legends of the past, we got to do the work in the now. So as we get ready to close, and I'm going to call up Reverend Derrick, who's been on the front lines longer than anybody in this room. We owe it to him and those that came before us not to make excuses, not to say we tired, not to say that it was great that they faced the dogs and the hoses and the beatings and the lynchings and the murders. We got to face that same thing. Because the only way these babies are going to have their own bodily autonomy, because they've already taken women's reproductive rights. They're in the process of continuing to take our voting rights. If they'll take your body and they'll take your vote, they will take your life. So I can't become any more serious in this call than right now. In 2023, we got to be ready to stand up and fight back. The NAACP has been standing up and fighting back for 113 years. Will you join us in this fight? Because when folks ask me the ridiculous question they always ask me, Gerald, why is the NAACP relevant? I point to the fact that we always stand up and fight back. Imagine a world without folks that stand up and fight back. So join us in the fight. I call up my friend, my colleague, my mentor. Oh, the choir? I thought it was the benediction. I'm sorry. That's why you need people helping you. We will turn it over to the choir, and then I'll call up Reverend Derrick for the benediction.
Walking in authority, living life without apology. It's not wrong here, I belong here, so you might as well get used to me. My mother may not be a queen, but my father's king of everything. I'm adopted into the family, so I guess that makes me royalty. And he's giving me dominion, yes. Power over men, them, yes. Everything I do is blessed. Promise me some great success. I am the authority, God of the majority, living in my liberty. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I'm walking in authority. I said living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well. Listen to this. My mother may not be a queen, but my father's king of everything. I'm adopted into the family, so I guess that makes me royalty. And he's giving me dominion, yes. Power over men, them, yes. Everything I do is blessed. Promise me some great success. I am the authority, God of the majority, living in my liberty. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I'm walking in authority. I said living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well. Listen, get something in your hand, 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 and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air. I said a 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, a 2, 3. So you might as well get used to me, say. I said living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well. Listen, get something in your hand, 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 and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air, and wave it in the air. I said a 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, a 2, 3, a 1, a 2, 3, 1, a 2, 3. I said a 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, a 2, 3, a 1, a 2, 3. So you might as well get used to me, sing. I said living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well. I'm walking in authority. Say living life without apology. It's not wrong, I belong, so you might as well used to me.
You know, there are many times you never know where you're going to get your blessing. I got up this morning and I was tired and I was weary. And I said, you know, I'm just going to sit here and rest a minute. But today, I want to thank you young people for your excitement. Do you know, young people, you all were alive, you were awake, and I want to congratulate you because in the world in which we live, young people fall out, they go to sleep, they cuss you out, they walk away, but you stayed. And I think we need to commend them. They have been great. You never know where you're going to get your blessing. I feel so good today. 2 years ago to the day, my wife passed. 1 year after that, to the day, my son passed. The 31st was her birthday. As I sat there alone, I wondered, how do you go on? How do you continue? And then you come to a place like today, where you find out that there is something deep down inside of you that won't let you quit, that won't let you turn around, that won't let you back up, that won't let you bend, that won't let you bow. You stand strong. So on behalf of the NAACP, we thank you. We heard from a prophetic voice today. Derrick Boazman, you are a prophet of our time. Hear ye him. He said it so profusely and so wonderful. And sometimes you wonder, when I think back, my close mentor, I met John Lewis, I was 18. He was 20. And an old man used to talk to us, and we said, oh, that old man ain't don't make no sense. He was 34 years old, old man, C.T. Vivian. What could an old man like C.T. tell us? We were 18 and 20 years of age. But today I feel so good when I see the mayor of East Point and Deborah Scott and Shirley Franklin and certainly Amari Fennoy picking up the torch and carrying it on. You all are to be commended. So as we stand for the benediction, Rabbi Cohen, I'm thinking about the old prophet Jeremiah. When Jeremiah decided to go back to the community had been torn down and all the health care was gone and the educational systems are torn up. But Jeremiah said, I've got to go back to the community. I cannot put my head in the sand. And as you leave this place today with the feeling that Jeremiah had, that this was just not another occasion, but this was a blessing, an individual and a collective blessing, Representative Boddie, where when you leave this place, you don't leave like you came in. Something inside of you should be different. Something inside of you to say that when I go into the CVS, the Home Depot, the little store on the corner, that somebody's going to see something in me that will change their lives to make us to continue to fight on and never give up. Jeremiah said that I'm going back and I'm going to rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. We've been called to rebuild the wall around our community. And to do that, he put everybody had a job. But let me tell you what your job is as you leave this place. Jeremiah said in Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, that I've got all of the warriors around me. I've got the builders around me. But the persons that he kept right next to him, Derrick, were the trumpet blowers, were those that had the ram's horn. And when anything came ever to attack, they blew the trumpet. So I say to all of you, leave this place on Jubilee Day, blowing your trumpet for justice, blowing your trumpet for honesty, blowing your trumpet for decency, blowing your trumpet for equality and justice. Blow your trumpet. Don't become weary in well-doing, for this is our time. This is our moment. We will not back up. And if I can keep on going at 81 years old, you can keep on going for 81 more minutes. God bless this place. Bless this occasion. Bless everyone here. Let us depart from this place, but never from your presence. God, let us feel your power emanating and moving in each of us. Let us leave this place walking a little bit higher, stepping a little bit stronger, running to see what the end will be. And victory will be assured if we never give up, if we never back up, if we never bow, if we never break. God, we thank you for the NAACP and for what all of it's doing. And what all it will do is leave from this place knowing that you've done what was assigned unto your hands to do, and feel the power. Feel the power. Feel the Holy Ghost power. Feel the divine presence of God telling each of us, let's stay on the wall. And we offer this benediction on the wings of the afternoon. And all those who leave here with their trumpet in their hand, ready to blow the trumpet for justice, say amen, amen. Let them hear you at the fire station. Let them hear you across the street. Blow your trumpet. Happy New Year.